Keeping track of your years too.
Oh, please.
Yours are gonna be up there.
You know, that has never occurred to me until you just said that.
It's now 7 p.m., Tuesday, May 21st, 2019. I'd like to call the Selectmen's meeting to order. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next would be public forum, limited to 5 minutes per topic. Discussion or comments about town employees or agency members shall be avoided so as not to violate individuals' rights. Anyone here for public forum? Next would be the Board of Selectmen minutes from May 7th, 2019.
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept the Board of Selectmen minutes from May 7th, 2019 as presented.
I'll second that.
The motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. The next would be recognition of John Hebert for his years of service. Jim? And I'm going to excuse myself and go to the men's room.
Yeah, right, yeah. We've actually got a plaque and a presentation that Selectman Hall will read in a minute. On behalf of all the department heads who are here tonight and everybody else that you've served with as a fellow department head and as a board member, we all appreciate your guidance, your wisdom, your leadership that we've all experienced over the last number of years. I was appointed as town manager 3 months after you were elected as a selectman, so we've been at this together for the last 12 years, and it's been a great experience for me, and most of all, I appreciate the friendship we've developed, as well as the friendship you have with all the other departments. So for that, I thank you, and I'll turn it over to Dave for his comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As Jim says, we have a nice plaque here, which I'll have to read this way. In recognition and gratitude of John L. Hebert, who has served the town of Sutton and its residents for 50 years, beginning in 1969 as an employee of the Sutton Highway Department and a volunteer on the Sutton Fire Department. John joined the police department as a part-time officer in 1971 and became full-time in 1972. He was promoted to police sergeant in 1989 and police chief from 1995 until his retirement in 2006. John also served the town of Sutton as a constable and on the Emergency Planning Committee, Central Mass Regional Planning Commission, and on the Sutton Board of Selectmen for 4 terms from 2007 to 2019. Thank you for your years of service and dedication to the town of Sutton.
Very nice, thank you.
And if it's okay with the chair and the board, I'd like to say a couple of words if I could.
Absolutely.
John and I actually first worked together almost 15 years ago, which seems like nothing to you, I know. But when I got on to the finance committee, so every year John would come before the finance committee to make his budget presentation. And my first professional recollection of John was at one of those meetings where I think he was sort of pushing to get some new cop equipment. So there was some company that had developed some new radar technique, and they had actually loaned to the town as like a trial some new radar guns. And so John sat before us and said that the very first time that they used it on 146 at the bridge where Central Turnpike is, the first car that came by was doing 104 miles an hour. So that's probably why I remember it, because it's kind of a shocking statistic. But I've gotten to know John a little bit better over the years, and he can be kind of sly And so to this day, I'm not really sure that ever happened. I think that was just a way maybe to get us to
You
buy
approved
the
it.
equipment. Yeah, see, it worked.
Very good at getting equipment.
But during those same meetings, after a couple of years of those, he began to bring Lieutenant Toll with him at that time. And that's the other side of John. You know, that was his opportunity to allow Dennis to get into the public eye and, you know, sort of help him develop for what turned out to be his future role, because, you know, I know John saw that coming. So, you know, that's the way John is. And people around this board probably have heard me talk a number of times about a day that we had on Manchog Pond with particularly you and Paul Maynard, and we had a nice boat tour, and we were out for a couple of hours, and John and Paul were, you know, they were kind of reminiscing about lots of different things that have happened over the years, and it was, you know, people they knew on the lake and incidents that had happened and changes that had occurred, and, you know, weird ways you got to drive down this road and this road in order to get to this residence, and it was, you know, it was fun, I think, to listen to them reminisce. But the perspective that I have from this board is it also was a realization of what, well, more than 50 years, because some of these were childhood memories as well, but of what living in this town and serving this town for all those years, what benefits that brings to us as a board and as a community, that you guys just had so much experience and wisdom and just institutional knowledge of the things that go on. And sitting here today, I know that's something that we're really going to miss. So, and you know, and the last thing I just wanted to say, I said this to you the other day, that something was going on in those years, that there was really a whole group of people who dedicated significant amounts of their lives to service to the town of Sutton. And so, you know, I think of the guy who's this room is named after, Wally Johnson, and Mike Chizzy is another guy that comes to mind. Naming names is dangerous, because as soon as you start, you leave a bunch of people out. But I think those are good examples of people who saw something really good about this town and dedicated as much, you know, of themselves to the town as they could. And when I think to the future and I think about you leaving the board, I think about those people, and the phrase like standing on the shoulders of giants comes to mind, and I put you for sure in that same category. So,
Well, thank you.
you know, I too would like to thank you for, you know, your you know, what you've given to me professionally on this board, and most of all for your friendship. So thank you very much, John. Congratulations.
Thank you. Jesse?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, John. Well, I can say this much. Over the last year, it's been really hard to follow Dave, that's for sure. That was well said. But I'm going to try. And in fact, just to make sure that I was clear and on point, I actually wrote down my thoughts. And so here we go. During your time working on behalf of the residents of Sutton, again, 50 years, this town has changed. Sutton was, when you started your service, a town filled with mostly farmers. And I think I remember as I was a kid growing up in Northbridge coming through, I always heard the legend, or rumor rather, that there were more cows in Sutton than there were residents. So in that time that we've gone from a farming community to what we are now, largely a sleepy suburb, you know, within the Worcester-Providence corridor, the town has changed, but one thing has been constant: your presence, your service to the community. I tried over the last week or two just to write down as many things that you've achieved on behalf of the town. And, you know, every time I'd put something down, again, I'd think of something else. And then I decided, you know, I'm not even gonna try making the list, because I know you would not appreciate that, because your service has always been from behind, making sure that the good things happen for the town. And it hasn't been about John Hebert. It's always been about Sutton. So instead, I would ask residents to simply drive around the town and think of the changes that have happened over the last 10, 20 years. And I can almost guarantee you, every corner of town, John Hebert played a role in making that change occur.
Also, you have set an example for our community in terms of your professionalism. I've only been on the board for 4 years, but you have definitely cast a large shadow that I aspire to follow in your footsteps in terms of how you hold yourself. You're courteous, you're respectful, but again, you always use that phrase of professionalism. And I think your example reflects well, not just on us as a board, but as a town. And I truly hope that all those who follow in our footsteps, collectively, look to your example and achieve, or at least try to do their best to serve in the truest sense of the word. Not because of them and any gain that they may get individually, but because of the benefit of serving this wonderful town. So on behalf of at least myself, for what it's worth, I thank you. And I'll tell you this much, I'm gonna miss looking over my shoulder and seeing you to my left.
Thank you, Jesse. Very nice. Wendy?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I don't want to repeat a lot that's already been said, but I can tell you my feelings are very anecdotal. When I moved to town in '97, I had some concerns about some things traffic-wise, and I came to see you. And I came to the department and did not expect to see the chief. And you welcomed me into your office and addressed my concerns, and it really inspired me. And I really think that was part of what inspired me to give back to the community over many years on the school committee and different building projects, because you're a great mentor, and I appreciate everything that you've given to me. When you supported me in my most recent election, that meant a tremendous amount to me. And I'm going to miss your guidance, although I'm not naive enough to know that you're not going to still be giving it to me. I just appreciate your many years, and the town would not be what it is without you. And I thank you so very much from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I too would like to thank you for your years of service, across the board. And I grew up in town, and obviously knew of you, and never had to visit you as far as ever getting in any trouble or anything like that.
Get in any trouble.
So that was good.
thing.
But I think you kind of served for me as an inspiration and a role model. Like as Jesse said, you kind of exemplify and you live by your values. And when I was considering running next year, and I met with you, about my thoughts about running, and how you kind of supported me in doing it, and really imparted how much you cared about Sutton, and that really became clear to me is how deeply you care about this town, and that really left an impression on me, and really made me think about how I would pick up that torch and keep going with it. And just like everybody has said, I just really appreciate all that you've done for the town and the years of service that you have, and just want to thank you.
Thank you very much. I didn't expect all of this. But thank you to everybody. Means an awful lot. 50 plus years of public service. I'd like to give a brief history of my past. A Sutton resident, 68 years, on Singletary Avenue. And I'd like to acknowledge my wonderful wife, Sue, my son, Tyler, and my daughter, Katie. 1969, right out of high school, I joined the Sutton Highway Department under the direction of Ray Smith. He was our highway supervisor. He was a very good boss. We worked very well together. I enjoyed my stay with Ray, but it was in my blood that I really wanted to be in Sutton and be on the police department. Matter of fact, I went to Chief LaCrosse, who was chief at that time, and I asked him if he would support me with a letter of recommendation to go to the state police. And he said, well, he called me Hard Rock. He says, Hard Rock, he says, you're not going to go to the state police. You're going to be one of my patrolmen. So I kind of stayed with that. And that was pretty nice. But I was appointed on my birthday, September 25th. That was a great day for me. I was mad as a wet hen because Ray Smith, who was on a Saturday, had me working at the highway department fixing a truck, and that's the day I wanted to, was my birthday, and I just felt I had a uniform at home. I didn't have any appointment. I didn't have any badge. Lo and behold, at noontime, the town clerk and the police chief then come down to the highway barn, and they appointed me as a police officer and gave me my badge. I ran home, and ironically, Jim knows, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I interrupted a housebreak in Sutton at the corner of Central Pike and Uxbridge Road at the Missouri home back then, and I chased one of the suspects all the way down to Purgatory. I think I probably cuffed him up around his elbows. He probably had gangrene, and I didn't probably put the handcuffs on right, but that's okay, you know? So my years as being a police chief, 1995 to 2006, 11 years. Prior to this, under the direction of Robert Conley, from 1973 to 1989, he was our chief. And we had others, but they weren't homegrown. They did not last. Between Robert Conley and myself, and currently Chief Dennis Toll, we have over 40 years of leadership from the ranks of this department, the police department. I worked for several town administrators, and my 4 best years was under the direction of Pat Nadorozic. She was great. She was just what the town needed after having administrators from all over who were not Sutton. Although Mike Boynton was good, but he was very young and he needed experience. When I was chief, Donald Conley and Dennis Toll were my lieutenants. They were both honest, and Dennis still is, trustworthy, loyal. They were my backbone. Chief Toll went from patrolman back then to lieutenant, passed over all the sergeants. Honestly, he was that good. He was a great second in command under me. He showed high standards. That is why he is our chief today. Some moments to remember. I remember I was in a cruiser on the 4 to 12 shift in 1994, and I caught an armed robbery suspect, 2 of them from Uxbridge, and recovered a shotgun and the money in the car as they traveled up 146. And I probably would have never known it was them, but they were going a little bit slow and they didn't look over at me, and I don't know why they didn't look at me, so I said, it's probably the guys, and sure enough, they were. So that was that certainly got the adrenaline pumping, and that's a good thing. And then sadly, in 1999, 5 teens were arrested for armed robbery and murder at the 146 Extra Mart. The shooter is still serving a life sentence. Matter of fact, myself and Chief Toll, we've been to 2 of the parole hearings, and he's still incarcerated, and that's a good thing. Early in 2000, I can remember doing a sting operation with Dennis and Dave Perry and a few of the others. We went to the post office with the postmaster, and we sent out a letter to people that had paper warrants back then, and they were called default warrants. And if you had a default warrant, regardless of how much money you had, you couldn't get out of jail, and you had to stay locked up until the next court-appointed day, which was Monday. Well, lo and behold, we had a lot of these paper warrants, and we sent out invitations to everyone come in and have a free cruise. Boy, they were lined up at the door. We made 9 or 10 arrests that morning for people on default warrants, so that was just another thing that, through the cooperation of Dennis and Dave and myself, and some of the things that you have fun, but it's all part of the job, you know? And on a good note, the Sutton Police Citizens Academy, I started the first one under a grant, and we really had a lot of fun. The Sutton residents that went to that, and it's continued here throughout the department. We went to the jail. We had the bus come that transported the prisoners from Georgia to Texas and Massachusetts, and we went all over and did a lot of things, and had some of the best lawyers in Worcester come in and instruct us, and it was quite a thing. Then I want to write a few notes down on Selectmen from 2007 to 2019, 12 years, worked alongside of Mike Chizzy, who I always listened to. He made sense. He cared for the townspeople, and he was well-liked. And Mrs. Chizzy, thank you for being here. And I'm touched by that. I was a selectman elected in 2007, the same year as our town administrator, James Smith, became our administrator. As you can see, what a breath of fresh air he's been to this town. Jim is great. He come from experience. He made Sutton his home with his family, just what Sutton needed after going through so many administrator misfits. Jim has built a great base in a team. He is well-liked by all. Made my selectman's role enjoyable the past 12 years. And I guess some accomplishments under that through Jim, but this board and the financial teams that we have here in Sutton is, we're a AA plus bond rating. Not many towns have that. And when you have that, you can borrow money at a very low rate. And we've done all that. We've paid a lot of our bonds off, and that's a real good thing. That's quite an honor. Not many towns have that. Also, top-ranked energy efficient in the state. At one time, we had Coke machines in the fire department and police department all around. They're all gone, replaced with refrigerators, and energy consumption, if I stand corrected, Jim, has gone down over 20%.
It's
right?
30.
Probably 30. And now with energy efficient, with the solar panels on the senior center and the school and the fire departments and the elderly, the school alone, we're saving about $75,000 in electricity bills just for that one thing that we do. 2015, under the direction of Wendy as a chairperson on the school building committee, we built 2 new schools. Now they're all in one, from K to the 12th grade. There's many towns that are jealous. They would like to have their campus in one whole area, and we do. And we got a really great school system. The upper grades now, they're promoting all the AP courses, and any one of our students can get into any of the top colleges. That's a plus. That's why people want to come here. At one time, I must say I voted no for the $11 million library, although my phrase then and my phrase today is, no does not mean never. Someday, at a much smaller scale and cost, we'll probably have that building. And finally, state-of-the-art police station, opening soon, a must for the town and the police staff. And to my select members, work in the best interest of the town people count on you, and it shows what this board does, what some of the other boards do. Look around, folks. We got one of the top boards in town. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. I wouldn't want to be governed by anywhere else. We have everything in place. Our police chief, our fire chief, our administrator, our town departments, tax collector, assessor's office, they all just do an outstanding job. And they work every day. And that's quite nice when you come down the hallway as everyone seems to be working and smiling, and you know, that's a good bond. Filling my seat next week will be Jeff Bannon. He's the chairman of the Finance Committee. He's going to do well. He's experienced, and he's going to be a good fit. And I look at all of you, Dave, Jesse, Wendy, Jonathan, and now Jeff. Please, just keep doing the job that you do. The people in this town, they count on us, and they look at us for direction, and we're the key to making that happen. Thank you.
Pictures?
Hmm?
Pictures?
After?
First on the agenda would be a public hearing, National Grid poll hearing on Morse Road. Wendy, would you read the notice?
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman, thank you. As posted in the May 2nd, 2019 Millbury Sutton Chronicle, public hearing notice. In accordance with the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 166, Section 22, you are hereby notified that a public hearing will be held at 7:00 p.m. on Tuesday, May 21, 2019, in the Sutton Town Hall upon petition from National Grid for permission to install one SO pole on Morse Road, beginning at a point approximately 618 feet east of the center line of the intersection of Main Street and Morse Road, and continuing approximately 170 feet in an easterly direction. National Grid to install new 35C2 pole 7 with anchor. Also, for permission to lay and maintain underground laterals, cables, and wires in the above or intersecting public ways for the purpose of making connections with such poles and buildings as the petitioner desires for distributing purposes. Plan filed herewith, mark number 274366158.
Thank you. And as chairman, I declare the public hearing open. And as you see, the National Grid person's here. Would you please identify yourself
My name is Merrill Harvey. I'm a designer with National Grid.
and tell us your purpose, please?
All right, so today we're here to provide service to number 17 Morse Road. We're adding one pole in the public way so we can feed him an underground service to his house. And probably the last thing that'll go on that street, it's kind of a corner there, and we tried to service it from the other side, but there was an easement that we couldn't get, so this was it, you know, so.
Thank you. And is anyone from the public that would like to make a comment? And I'll open it up to the board. Dave?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I address Merrill,
Sure.
I'd just like to say that, you know, with all the people that are here, it's good that we have a couple of poll hearings tonight so they can see all the exciting work that we get to do. And anyway, so this one, it's just out in front of the property to.
That's gonna, well, it's gonna be sitting, so if you're facing the property, it's off to the right a little bit, but it's in the public way, and it's just a solo pole. It's like any other pole that we normally put but we're going overhead from one pole to this one, and then he's going underground from there.
Yeah, and it's noted here
Simple.
that
It's
highway,
pretty
fire, and
simple
police
job.
have all signed off on it, so I really
Yeah,
don't have any
thank
other
you.
questions, so thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I wish I could have comments, but I can't. You know, the key marks for me, the highway, police, and fire, so I'm all set. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Wendy,
I'm all set as well, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Jonathan?
I'm all set, thank you.
And I go along with my colleagues, and a motion to close the public hearing,
So moved.
and the motion, please.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve poll hearing number 27436158 from National Grid as advertised in the May 2nd, 2019 Millbury Sutton Chronicle.
Second?
A motion been made and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. And the second agenda item is a public hearing, National Grid, poll hearing, Whitens Road at Gilmore Drive. Wendy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As posted in the May 2nd, 2019 Millbury Sutton Chronicle, public hearing notice. In accordance with the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 166, Section 22, you are hereby notified that a public hearing will be held at 7:05 PM on Tuesday, May 21, 2019, in the Sutton Town Hall upon petition from National Grid for permission to install beginning at a point approximately 3,000 feet north of the center line of the inspection of Whitens Road and Gilmore Drive, and to continue approximately 225 feet in a northerly direction. National Grid to install new pad-mount transformer on private property, also known as 65 Gilmore Drive. National Grid to install new secondary pad mount to existing MH2 and new handholds. National Grid to install 2,576 feet of secondary conductor and 250 feet of 2-inch conduit in town-owned streetlights. Also, for permission to excavate the public highways and to run and maintain underground electric conduits, together with such sustaining and protecting fixtures as it may find necessary for the transmission of electricity, said underground conduits to be located substantially in accordance with the plan filed herewith marked Gilmore Drive. Plan file herewith marked number 27306080.
Okay, and as chairman again, I declare the public hearing open. And
All right, pretty simple. What she said was basically we're gonna install 5 handholds up Gilmore Drive to provide public lighting that you guys had asked us for. And most of this secondary and conduit won't be, obviously, it's never in the street because those kind of handholds are made of fiberglass. So they'll be off on the sidewalk going all the way up that way. And they're gonna need the conduit to connect to the new transformers they put up there. Without it, I'll be honest, you won't be able to get power to those because all that's primary wire with transformers to each individual building up there. So we need to do this in order to provide you with the public utility.
This is part of the $75,000 capital item to install LED lights at Gilmore Drive.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
Sure.
And anyone from the public have any comments? A motion to close the public hearing?
I'd like to make a motion.
Oh.
I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
Motion been made second, all in favor?
Aye.
And would you read the,
Certainly.
So we have comments from,
oh, I'm sorry, comments first. Okay.
so just a quick, this has no impact, or it's not in service of the new construction that's going up there at all?
Actually, that's also mine. So I was talking to Jesse earlier, and we're actually gonna be able to, with that steel, the metal building that was in Worcester is now moving here?
Gilmore.
Yes.
Okay, so they're actually, their service is so large that we're gonna actually be bringing primary all the way back to Whitens Road now. So we'll be able to feed the industrial park from 2 sides now instead of 1. You know, before we were having some fall issues when the trees hit the line on the other side. So now we're gonna be able to do that, but that's under a different job. You know, this is just for the lighting and the secondary only. You know, that's gonna be running, all the ductwork is there already for the other job. All we're gonna be doing is running new service on that last manhole, cause he's at the end of that cul-de-sac right now, that new property, so.
Right.
Not the same.
Other than that, I really have no other questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Jesse?
Yeah, I'd just like to comment, Merrill, if I could. To your point, this is critical because in the last 2 years, we've managed to fill Gilmore Drive.
Yep.
We have Prime Metals coming in and we have IBA coming in. So as you mentioned to me outside, the fact that this is going to ensure consistent power, I think that's key. Plus, as has been a long-standing goal of this board for the last couple of years, of getting LED lighting down to Gilmore Drive, you know, everything's coming together, so.
Yeah, I was talking to the designer that did that deal for you, and he said, this is design number 2.
Ah, well, this is
So
gonna
they've
be,
been trying for a while.
this is gonna be the prime design.
We're gonna get it done.
Everything's gonna be in place. Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Wendy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have one quick question. With regard to the excavation of the public roads, is there a certain area you anticipate may be impacted
As far as what, of this job,
to excavate for the LED lights?
Oh, no, that's gonna be, it's still in public property, but it's off the road.
Oh, great.
Yeah, none of this is gonna be in, the infrastructure is already laid there. They're gonna be going through existing manholes. The only reason why we're asking for handholds, because that's where our secondary comes in, and that's how you can feed the lights afterwards. We need to be able to come out of a transformer into one of those little handholds and then connect the secondary wire to that. We're not gonna be able to go directly into transformers because all of those are 3-phase, and they're all owned by each individual company. Those are on their property.
Okay.
So,
That was my only question.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no questions. I'm all set.
And I don't either. We have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Motion to approve public hearing, to approve poll hearing number 2730680 from National Grid as advertised in the May 2nd, 2019 Millbury Sutton Chronicle.
Second.
Motion been made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you very
I'd
much.
just like to say, sir, congratulations.
Thank you.
And it was like, I'm not from this town, so when I sit here and I listen to and hear about someone that spent so much of his life in one place, in a world where people move around so much, pretty impressive.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck in everything, sir.
See you soon.
We got a hand leaving before Ezzy.
We're starting a scary precedent.
Next would be Valancourt Folk Art, one-day wine and malt for 2 events. Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Luke Valancourt and Gary Valancourt are here to represent the Valancourt Folk Art. They are coming before the board to request 2 separate events, beer and wine licenses. The first will be a 3-day Chris Kindle Market and Artisan Show. That event will be held. You know, why don't I just let Gary and Luke, because I did a cover letter, but they can explain it better than this cover letter will, so.
Thank you very much, and I want to say, our business has been in town for 35 years, and John Hebert has been instrumental in many areas of our business and supported us very well, and John, we are very grateful for everything you've done for us.
Thank you.
Last year, we came to town looking for the ability to sell wine, and I will say that most of you purchased our wine, and we completely sold out the wine within 60 days, and we look forward to tasting and starting another batch next year, so thank you. 29 years ago, I started the Chain of Lights with Linny and Jane Oliver and Steve LeClaire. And we started it because our goal was to make residents in town who worked outside of town understood what we actually had in town. And 29 years later, I have to say that the Chain of Lights is become an institution for town, keep bringing residents together along the way. The last 4 years, my wife and I have taken over 100 collectors to Europe to visit Chris Kindle Marts. And I'm not sure if you know what it is, but if I can just indulge me for a second. These European towns create these environments. It's a marketplace. And it's completely decorated for Christmas beyond comprehension with Christmas trees and garlands and everything beyond belief. And there's 2 components to it. There's the exhibitors selling things, and then there's the famous Glühwein. And if you're not familiar with Glühwein, it's a European tradition. It's a spiced mulled wine. And every place you go, you get a special Glühwein mug, which I'll pass around one of them, Jim. And the idea of it is that it's a social event for the town. So you come to town, if you get out of work, you get a glass of Glühwein, you get a sausage, then you go shopping at the exhibit. And the Glühwein things are so wild that we have collectors that have over 75 different Glühwein mugs along the way. So we've decided to try to do a Chris Kindle Mart in town. I would like to start it in our own area and see what happens with it. And it consists of about 3 different components. Number 1 is we're taking Blackston Hall and we're completely building out hard Chris Kindle Mart booths for 7 exhibitors. They'll be completely decorated with garlands and lights. The exhibitors that we have are very, very well-known exhibitors in our world. They're coming in from Ohio, North Carolina, Maine, Vermont, from all over the place to get in. And they all have very extensive mailing lists to bring their own collectors in. So we're setting up the area in Blackstone Hall as an exhibit hall. In our store, the second area, we're bringing in a tremendous amount of traditional German goods. And then on the outside, we're going to create a food court. I'll have Luke explain that. Early American Life magazine immediately jumped on it and said, we'd love to sponsor it. We've had tremendous response on it. Luke put it online one day by mistake, and we had 50 people from outside of New England want to buy tickets. And it will be a ticket-driven event only that we can control depending upon what time of day. So we'll start it, and if it sells one, we'll then put tickets for second times of day. So it's basically a Friday night, a Saturday day, Saturday night, and a Sunday. And the goal is to create this whole environment of a Christkindl Mart. And the hope is that it's successful and that it has the ability to perpetuate itself in different areas. We can really see at some point taking a lot of the area in Manchog and really turning it into an event. Has to be controlled tightly. We absolutely will have police coverage. We figure we have to have at least a couple of police officers. We've hired a valet service for parking. I mean, we're pretty organized from that point. But Luke, I'll have Luke talk about a little bit about the food and that.
Yeah, so obviously there's the shopping component where we have the outside vendors coming in that will be setting up in Blackstone Hall. We have our retail store set up for shopping of the German product. And then probably the most fun aspect is a food and drink pavilion that we're looking to erect outside, which would be directly outside of the mill in the parking area. We're looking at potentially a 20 by 30 tent so that we can self-contain it. And then we're looking to bring in some quality food and drink vendors. The food vendors would be Stillman Quality Beef. They just opened up a Water Street storefront in Worcester. They do some phenomenal, farm-raised sausage. So they'll be looking at creating a Christmas sausage that's unique to us. And then we're also looking at having Queen's Cups out of, they were previously out of Millbury, now out of Worcester. They will be doing a gingerbread and sweet type desserts inside. And then we're looking at also potentially having Crust do pretzels to sell. Crust is a bakery in Worcester who are doing some real phenomenal artisan pretzels like that. And then the main component for the drinks is really looking at bringing in Christmas-themed beers, bringing in Glühwein. We found a company in Nuremberg, Germany. So we're looking to import the Glühwein through a distributor for that. And then also having the Valancourt Christmas wine that we'll be selling in our store for the bottles, but actually selling it by the glass outside in the contained area. So obviously we know that we'll have tip certified bartenders. All of the food vendors will be have all the proper licensing and permits that they'll need, and then we'll have it in a very tightly controlled area. It was a recommendation to have hand washing stations in there, so we'll look at doing that. We'll have some porta potties outside as well, but really trying to create a great Christkindl market feel for many people that may not know what a German Christmas market is. So
That's the nutshell.
I'd like to open it up to the board for questions. Dan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, gentlemen. I guess I have some questions, but I'll start with, you had, your second event is really a repeat from last year, which,
Correct. Christmas week,
all reports are that it went very well and had no incidents, so you have some experience with this kind of thing, which is helpful. I think the main question that came to mind as you're describing what you want to do, besides the idea that it seems like a really cool event and something that could be pretty interesting, but if you're going to sell tickets, is the idea that the beverage tent limited to those with tickets? Or if I'm driving by and see the festivities, could I stop by
The
and
answer
grab
to
a
your
bite?
question is you have to have a ticket.
You have to have a ticket.
We do not want to do an Oktoberfest. We're not looking to sell alcohol so much as to provide the environment. So yes, you do have to have a ticket. The tickets for Friday night will be $20, which will include a glass of Glühwein, and Saturday there'll be $10. But yes, you have to have a ticket to be able to get into the food pavilion.
Okay. But these, it sounds like if the ticket sales go well enough, particularly on Saturday and maybe Sunday, could be really long events.
I think our concern, first of all, is trying to make sure we get enough people to go, to make
Sure.
it work. And then our second concern is that it could be too successful. And so the idea of doing ticket sales is to try to figure out when we sell so many tickets, then we'll break it out so that the next ticket is 3 o'clock on Saturday or 6 o'clock on Saturday. So the idea is that by pre-selling, we'll be able to try to control the amount of people that we can have in the facility. We envision having 3 control points. We envision having the control point outside. We envision having a control point for so many people in the store. And then in the theater itself, we expect to be monitoring traffic at all 3 levels. So it's kind of like a triple overflow that we can create and then turn it off if it becomes too heavy. But we should know by ticket sales. I mean, that's the goal.
And how many people do you anticipate to have at sort of one setting or seating, if you would?
Basically, the theater holds about 165 people, the store holds about 165 people and outside, so we're probably talking probably 400 to 500 people at a sitting.
Sure.
We don't want it so crowded that people can't shop, because the basic goal of this is to get people into our store.
Sure.
And the idea for bringing in all of these exhibitors who have very strong national reputation is to get them into our store so that they understand what it is. I mean, I anticipate probably 30% of the people from being outside of New England.
Wow.
Which I'm hoping fills the O'Connell Lodge and some of the other facilities in the area.
Yeah.
I wish that we had another hotel in town, but that's another whole issue, so.
That's a different agenda night.
Yes, it
so,
is.
all right.
Be careful what you wish for.
All right, well, that's what I have for questions, so thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Luke and Gary. It's always a pleasure to have you before us. I like this ticket-driven event. Every purchaser of a ticket gets access to at least one Glühwein.
Excuse me, Friday night, the first 300 people, I have 300 Glühwein mugs I'm flying in from Germany. So the first 300 people that are over 21 will get a glass of Glühwein.
Okay.
Other than that, it's a pay situation.
Pay per drink, okay, excellent, thank you
And
for
that's
clearing
one,
that
and
up.
if you notice the glass, they're not humongously large quantities.
Well, I can say this much. My wife had the fortunate experience of going to one of these Christmas markets over in Germany, and she keeps saying, we gotta go, we gotta go, we gotta go. So I get to cover that base by saying, yeah, we're gonna go down to Manchog Mills next year. So.
Go to Manchester.
So yeah. Hey, that's a trip for me. I love going there. One thing that I definitely liked hearing was the fact that this is a completely controlled environment. Plus, you are a classy establishment. You have upscale clientele. The events that you have are truly, truly special. I'm glad to see that the Christmas Carol is coming back. I attended that 2 or 3 years in a row, and with luck, we'll be around, and hopefully we'll be able to attend again this year. So again, you have a history, you have a clear track record, and this isn't going to be, again, I don't want to sound derogatory in any way, but it's not going to be like low scale, it's going to be upscale. Because you said the intent is not to have an Oktoberfest. This isn't a drinking event. This is an opportunity for people to come and experience the totality of the environment. So I think it's wonderful. And last but not least, not only is it relatively small scale, but you do have an existing liquor license. So you have had past history with dealing with these type of events. So I think this is wonderful. I'm assuming at some point we'll get a report from the chiefs.
Yeah, and let me tell you, when we met with Jim Smith, we discussed that we absolutely have to meet with the police chief and understand it, and whatever the rules are, we have no problem doing that. And we know that we will have officers present and whatever we need. The valet parking, I think, is gonna help us tremendously, because parking could be an issue, so by doing that, I think that that's gonna alleviate a lot of the traffic that we could be having.
Right, particularly out in front of the building.
Yeah,
There's not many
absolutely.
spaces
So
available.
yes, we will meet with the chiefs along the way. We've
Excellent.
already talked to, or actually the mill owner has talked to Matt about the structures that we're building inside of the theater itself, so.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Wendy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of quick comments. I'm so glad to see you back. I know I love the Christmas Carol, and I guess I'm speaking to both motions at the same time. But I'm really looking forward to this event. I think it's going to be fantastic. I hope I can get in there quick enough to get a couple of tickets.
Thank you.
But yeah, no, I think it's wonderful, and I'm thrilled to hear about the valet parking, because that was really the only thing that was sort of in the back of my head, because it is a tight area, and there's no real street parking or anything over there, so. But no, I think it's wonderful, and I'm glad to see you perpetuating all of these wonderful opportunities in town.
Thank you. One of the concerns that we have, and we talked to Jim about, was we want to eliminate gypsy vendors showing up. And I mean, when we did the Sutton 300, it was a real issue that all of a sudden you would have gypsy vendors showing in. So we will talk to Pucky Huddle, which is the nearest place to us, to see about their parking. The other across the street area for that is the cemetery area. So our goal is to try to really control, so that we want to control the quality, and the last thing we want to have show up is 3 food trucks up the street selling things. So, and I'm not sure how we do that through you all, but I know from a facility point of view, we've identified the 2 areas that could really happen, so.
And speaking of the food, I can tell you those artisan pretzels are to die for. So I'm so excited to hear that.
Jonathan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you for coming before us again with another great event, set of events. I think, as always, you create these experiences around town, and you bring people to Sutton, and you get to see what a beautiful place we have here. And everybody's really asked a lot of the questions I had concerns over. I fully support this, and I look forward to seeing these events come forward and what they bring to the town.
Thank you. On your last night.
Well, Gary, and Judy, and now Luke, you're a class act. We've watched you from Armsbury Road. Those are the fun days, though.
Oh, yeah.
Where you had to wait outside and sign that little book and see Sutton residents and other people and wait in line to get that first starlight, I have many of them.
You do.
And it's a lot of fun. But this event here, what you're gonna have, I don't expect anything but what you've presented. And I'm full support of all of this, because I know it's gonna be a class act, and keep going.
Thank you. Our concern is controlling it. I mean, that's our biggest concern, that we have, SRS wants to run 45 radio ads, and I'm saying, we want the tickets to go on sale, June, basically as soon as you approve
June
it.
1 is what we've,
As soon as you approve it, we'll go on sale. So the idea is to really control it from the point of view that pre-ticket sales will at least enable us to handle what it is. And that's our goal, and that we will need as much help as we can, and we figure we've got it under control, but I would never forecast the chain of lights being what it is today either, so.
And Jesse, another question?
Yeah, I do. I actually came up with 2 quick questions. The pre-sale, I know, Luke, you do a wonderful job with the web presence and making sure you do the email blasts, and I'm hoping and praying that there'll be an email blast announcing the pre-sale.
oh, absolutely.
All right, good. So
Yeah.
I can look forward to that. That's
Oh, yeah.
good.
And we also have 10,000 postcards that are going to be going out to our immediate collectors, and every artist that's coming in from out of town, they've identified their collector base within a 30-mile radius of the zip code, so they will also be doing their own mailings.
Well, in your collector base is the family. It's an extension of your own family. So you've just done a great job with that. And the other thing that I had in terms of parking, I'm assuming that we would have the ability to cordon off the lot across the street from the town side, because that's town property.
Yeah, we've been in discussions about entering into some sort of deal with Pucky Huddle. They control
sure they
that
could do the same
area,
thing as
and
well.
yeah.
Okay, excellent. That's all I had.
And if I may, Gary or Luke, when is the first day that your wine is gonna be on sale for the public?
We have the date. Go ahead.
I want to say it's like September 15th.
He wants a really low number.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll make sure that we'll send you an email when it
Yeah,
comes
we
out.
said that last time, and you didn't send it to
Yeah.
us. Yeah, the new wine.
Said it to a lot of people.
The wine floored us. The wine we had no expectation. It was a real risk on our part. And I mean, we were floored that it sold out by Christmas. I mean, and people calling. The #1 bottle sold for $330 online. I mean, it's been a very interesting game. So we're very grateful for the fact that you've enabled us to do it. And our goal is to try to just keep controlling it. I mean, if we come back, we want to make sure that we've done what we said. This event's a big event, and this one is one that we're really going to try to work on. And we're going to need to talk to Jim and the chiefs and all of that, so.
The motion?
Certainly. I would like to make a motion to approve 3 one-day on-site wine and malt special licenses for Valancourt Folk Art on November 15th, November 16th, and November 17th for Chris Kindlesmart
Chris Kindlemart, yeah.
and Artisan Show.
I'll second that.
Motion been made and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, thank you very, very much.
We got
We
two
really-
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to,
Another
yep,
motion.
yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve a 2 one-day on-site wine and malt special licenses for Valancourt Folk Art on November 24th and the 25th.
Second.
Motion been made and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much for
Thank you,
coming.
guys, we
Good
really
luck.
appreciate it.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Take them up, don't lose them.
Yeah.
Jonathan was gonna hide it.
There's only 299 other ones.
Now, out of the ordinary, next is the town manager's update. But anyone that really wants to leave now, I
Yeah.
guess, you know, unless you want to stay for the town manager's announcements, and
We can scrounge up another poll hearing if you wanna hang around.
anyway, town manager's update. Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, the fire department district chief appointment. On Monday, May 13th, Chief Belcito and I met with Robin Dresser, and we subsequently appointed him as district fire chief for Station 2. Robin Dresser has been a firefighter in town since 2002. We'd really, as a board and as a family, like to congratulate Robin on all his years of service to the town. And I'd also like to thank District Chief Jim Galanis, who served the town for over 30 years through the Sutton Fire Department. So thank you to him. The Town Hall Annual Cookout is scheduled for Tuesday, June 4th, 11:30 to 1 p.m. I would, again, as I do every year, I'd like to close Town Hall for that time to allow the employees to relax and attend. And obviously, the Board of Selectmen is invited as well, if you're available. Memorial Day Parade is next Monday, May 27th. The board should arrive no later than 10:30 a.m. Election Day is the following day on Tuesday, May 28th, from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. in all three precincts. As a reminder, Precinct 1 and Precinct 3 both vote at the middle school gymnasium, as they have in prior years. Sutton High School graduation will be held on Sunday, June 2nd at 1 p.m. at Mechanics Hall in Worcester. And new selectmen training to be held on Saturday, June 8th from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Sharon Community Center. And if you're interested, please let us know and we will work with you on that. That's all I have for updates, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Ray?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jim, thank you for the update. You know, I'd like to first speak to Jim Galanos. We're celebrating 50 years of service here, so, you know, when you say 30, maybe it doesn't sound like much, but 30 years is pretty tremendous, so certainly appreciate all of his efforts for all those years. And Robin is a great choice, very professional, and will do a great job, so I think win-win there. Look forward to the cookout. That's always a fun event, and so certainly my support for that. And the rest is pretty self-explanatory, so thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Jesse?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess to echo Dave, thank you to the service of Jim. I never met Jim, but, you know, 30 years it's extraordinary. And Robin's an all-star in my book. So, you know, it's definitely a recognition, well-deserved. So congratulations, Robin, and yeah, town cookout, definitely good fun. Hopefully Donna will be manning the grill. She does a great job with that. Yeah, and everything else that you said, it's right there. So nothing else. Thank you.
Wendy?
Thank you. Just real quickly, thank you, Chief, for your recommendation for Robin. I think it's incredibly appropriate. I'm looking forward to sharing the veggie burger with you at the cookout. Like-minded people. Looking forward to the parade, and I just want to encourage everybody to come out and vote next Tuesday. I know they're not contested elections, but your vote means more than you may think it does, so please don't take it for granted. That's all. Thank you.
Jonathan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd also like to congratulate, Robin for being appointed, and to thank Jim for his years of service. Again, 30 years is pretty amazing, and we don't see that very often anymore. I'm going to definitely try to rearrange my schedule at work so I can come to the cookout. and because it'll be my first one, I really enjoy to do that. And then, as far as the election, I just encourage people, even though it's uncontested, that people show up and vote.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Jim,
Chairman.
thanks for a great update and for everything you've done. It means an awful lot.
It's been a pleasure.
Next would be announcements, Selectmen's Roundtable, and correspondence. We'll put them all together. Dave?
And then just one last chance to say thank you, and we'll see you around town.
Thank you. Jesse?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First and foremost, I have a very brief food pantry list. I communicated with Diane this week, and she mentioned there are some things that they're running low on. So if you're doing your shopping and you'd like to make a donation, they're looking for minute rice or white rice or instant rice, quick bread mix, shampoo, dish soap, cleaning supplies, and now that summer is almost upon us, remember, summer for the food pantry is actually their busy season. So if you could grab a couple of extra snacks and include them in your donations, I'm sure the crew down at the food pantry, the Mike Chizzy Food Pantry, will appreciate that. Next, I'd like to congratulate the class of 2019, because the next time we meet, both seniors from Sutton High School as well as BVT will be off in the real world. So best of luck in your future endeavors. And lastly, I'd like to throw a congratulations to our new sergeant in town. I saw Facebook earlier today, and there was a promotion. I can mention this, right?
You've already done
It's
it.
on social
It's on social. If it's on Facebook, it must be true after all.
Yeah, I'll have Joe Fortunato before the board on June 4th
All right,
for
then-
formal appointment.
Then we won't make it a formal congratulations. I'll just send out a personal congratulations to Joe, and we'll leave it at that. And last but not least, I want to thank you for 4 years of friendship. It means the world to me, and I know I'll be getting those calls every now and then. So you'll be keeping an eye on us. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Lindsay?
We're not done clapping for you yet. I have nothing other than just to reiterate my deepest, warmest wishes for you going forward, and my warmest thanks for everything that you've done.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Jonathan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have anything to announce, but I as well would like to thank you. And it's been a pleasure the last 6 months getting to serve with you. And I'll definitely, as I continue forward over the next couple years, I'll be holding your spirit in mind as I, do my job here. So
You'll be hearing from him, don't worry.
Yeah, you're not off the hook.
Good. With nothing before the board, I'll entertain an adjournment.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Second?
Yes.
All moved?
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
He doesn't want it to end.
We put in for a
Pam still
continuation.
around?
She's coming back.
Oh, awesome.